want to talk you through our thinking on the project. There's a very deep art in building sample libraries. Surely you've either used something from Contact, EXS24, if you're a Reason user, the NNXT series. Obviously the folks at Propeller Heads and lots of other folks have made brilliant sample-based instruments for these DAWs and for these tools. We're going to take our stab at it and use this particular piano and build our own sample piano. So if we do our good job and we do it well, this will be the Pyramind Kawaii piano. So, sampling, for those of you who don't know, is the painstaking process of capturing as many varieties of the instrument as you can, organizing them, intelligently layering them into either one or several different instruments in a sampler, and attempting to recreate the performability, if that's a word, I just made that up, the performance capacity of the instrument itself. And there are several ways to go about this, from the cheap, sort of simple, get off the ground, hurry up and get it done method, to more detailed methods. And then, of course, there are folks who are going to go way beyond the scope of what we're going to do here today. So let me walk you through the basics of sampling. I'll talk about some of the mics, some of the choices that we've made, and we'll have lots of audio samples for you to have fun with, and who knows, maybe there'll even be a sampler instrument for you at the end of this all. Okay, so before we get into the instrument itself and some of the mics that we've chosen, let's just talk about this part here. So there's always a combination of the pedals, the playing, the intensity of the playing, the strings, the quality of the hammer, the quality of the wood. All of these things come together to make the complexity of the instrument itself. When you attempt to sample it, you want to try and capture that sound from a few different places and in a few different ways. The sort of quick and dirty method of sampling is to simply grab a couple of sounds and so on up the piano, recording each of them, and then mapping those to a particular note on the MIDI instrument. And so one of the cheaper techniques is to do what we call thirds, or sample in thirds. And so the idea would be if I played this, and when I go to my instrument, say whatever it is, EXS24 or Contact or whatever your favorite sampler instrument is, when I take this, I put this one audio file on this note, and I allow it to cover, this is C, I allow it to cover C sharp and C flat, or D flat and B, if you will. And so this one audio file is triggered here, here, and here. Well, that's only one audio file. The next audio file I'm going to take is up in a minor third. So from here we go up 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3. So I'll take another recording here. This one will be triggered by 1, 2, and 3. So it's always one note below and one note above. From here, one note above, one note below. So I'll take an audio sample here, here, here. And remember, from here it'll be played back on this note, this note, this note. I'll take it again here, and it'll be played back here, here, and here, and so on up the line. You end up with a full diminished chord, but that's irrelevant. What is relevant is that each audio file occupies 1, 2, 3 keys. The value of doing this is you never have an audio file that's stretched more than 1 semitone up or down. You have 1/3 the number of audio files, which means your sampler instrument will be very small in terms of RAM. And as a result of only taking the one audio file and placing it only 1 semitone north and south of the original key, is that the actual timbre should be pretty close. It's not going to be the same, but it should be pretty close to the original timbre of the instrument itself. The really more expensive way to do it is to take a sample at every note, and then put that sample on that key. So every note on the key, on the sampler instrument is triggered by the actual audio file of that instrument. The even more expensive way to do that is to take every note sampled at multiple strengths, so you've got and so on and so forth, maybe 5 intensity levels. Velocity map that, so as you hit the MIDI keyboard lightly, it triggers the light sample. As you hit the MIDI keyboard a little bit harder, it triggers the middle sample, and so on and so forth. So you're playing actually has a direct result on the actual timbre of the audio being triggered back. But as you might imagine, you went from audio of 1/3 the size to 1:1 the size, and then 5:1 the size. In other words, if I'm sampling C at 5 different energy levels, I have 5 audio files for one key. Those pianos start to get pretty big. Then you can multiply that with how long you hit it, and you can see that after a while you can have a 25:1 ratio of audio files to keys on the piano. That starts to get a little unwieldy, and so there are some other tricks that people do afterwards, particularly with medium samples or short samples. You'll take a short sample and you'll just trigger it, and you'll take a medium sample, and that, I mean length in terms of short and medium. And in the middle of the medium sample, you can set loop points in the sampler. So you get the initial strike, and then it loops the audio, 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 and then I let go, and it adds the end of the file to it. So you get the clean beginning, a looped beginning, so you can hold it as long as you like, and then a clean end, and that way you can only use an audio file that's this long, and then play it and have it sound as if it's this long. So there's a lot that goes into sampling, obviously, a fairly complex instrument like a piano. I'm just giving you a brief overview of some techniques that some people use to build sampler instruments. The next decision you have to make is to figure out what is the sound of the instrument and where are the best places to capture this instrument. And we'll talk through some of the microphones in just a second. A piano is a fairly complicated instrument, something like drums. One of the reasons why they're complicated, both drums and piano, is that there's no one instrument. It's a system of parts coming together to make a very complex instrument. And when you have something like a piano, or again, drums for that matter, one of the most key ingredients of the instrument in capturing the nuance and the actual tone of the instrument is actually the room you're in. And so when we started thinking about where we wanted our microphones, and I'm actually going to adjust this one just a hair because I'm not liking where you're living right now. Precision and delicacy are part of the equation, but the room is part of the equation also. So what we've chosen today is to go with 3 pairs of microphones doing 3 different things. But generally speaking, there's kind of a near, mid, and far field approach you want. So you close mics, you want mics that are a little bit far away, and then mics that are fairly far away. So what we have today are 2 mid-close ideas and then 1 kind of a mid-far idea. So starting back here, you can see these are 2 Neumann U87 microphones. They're not necessarily the kind of thing that anyone just has lying around. They're anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 each, but it's the microphone that more hit records have been sung into than any other over the years. So we have this beautiful pair of mics over here. These are currently set to figure 8 pattern, or the bidirectional pattern. And what's going on here is that this microphone is actually facing 45 degrees across the instrument, and then this mic is also facing 45 degrees across the instrument. So this one's listening front and back, and then this one's also listening front and back. The idea is that this is a technique called Bloom line, and you can look it up. It's Blumlein, and this Bloom line technique is really good for mid-field distances. It creates a really nice stereo image, not terribly wide. It has a really good mono compatibility. So if these were the only 2 mics you had and you pushed a mono button, you're going to have minimal phase interaction between the mics. So this is getting kind of a big picture over there and another big picture over here, not the instrument direct, but the ambience around the instrument. And so we're using these mics to capture kind of the space, if you will. And then as we move into the piano, one of the first things you want to do with an instrument is get really comfortable. And so we had all of the interns and all the assistants have some fun. I was sitting over there playing, and we literally stuck our heads into the piano, and you can even hear the timbre of my voice change as my head gets into the piano. You really start hearing the depth and the resonance of the instrument itself. And you find a place in there where your head and your heart say, sounds good here. And it doesn't have to be terribly scientific. It really just has to be, I like it, for whatever reason. And so when you find a spot that you like, and we liked it right here, kind of in the middle, up high, you stick a microphone, or a couple of microphones. Now we originally had these guys, but they were going to hit. So we switched to these guys, which are AKG C414B ULS, otherwise known as the 414. And so we have a pair of 414s running a basically XY pattern. So this one on the left is actually facing the right strings, and the one on the right is facing the left strings. So it creates a stereo image. The one thing to keep in mind if you ever use this XY technique is that you end up having to cross pan the mics. In other words, the mic on the right is actually the left in the speaker, the one on the left is the right in the speaker, and so forth. As long as you can keep that in mind, you're fine. Otherwise, when the stereo image, the bass is going to be on the right when it should be on the left. Because as I sit in the piano, the heavy strings are the basses on the left, and then the treble is over here on the right. So this is an XY in the middle of the instrument, getting a lot of reverberation of the instrument itself and kind of a general spectrum of the mids of the instrument. It's not going to get all detail up here. It's not going to get all that detail down there, but it's going to get a nice kind of the heart of the instrument, if you will. And then we'll move up front and we'll show you what we're doing up there. So as you can see from my position here, looking in, here's the AKG 414, and then out here we have a pair of Shure SM81 microphones. These guys have been with us for over 20 years, which gives you an idea of how rugged these mics are. They're from Shure, S-H-U-R-E, same company that makes the perennial SM58. These mics are small diaphragm condenser mics. The AKGs and the Neumanns are large diaphragm condenser mics. All of these are condenser mics. So one thing to note is that this one's kind of pointing over here. There's not a lot of string action over here where it's pointing. And that's actually intentional. What we're trying to capture is the vibration at the juncture between the string and the padding. Here and sometimes in here or sometimes at this sort of bridge mechanism, you'll find that there are a lot more harmonics, a lot of real bright detail. These are bright mics capturing bright detail on the strings. One other thing to note is that the height of these two should be the same, and the height of these two are the same as the AKGs. And in fact, if you shot all the way out to the Neumanns, they're also on pretty much the same vertical plane. The idea behind having all of the mics at the same vertical plane is that as the sound emanates off of the instrument, it should hit all three microphones at roughly, or at least some semblance of the same time. Less so on the 87s because they're quite a bit further away. There's going to be a good amount of phase shifting in the U87s, but that's a desired phase shifting. Here, between the 414s and the SM81s, if they're on the same plane right off of the body of the instrument or the string bed of the instrument, the sound should be hitting all four diaphragms at roughly the same time per string. The value there is that if a sound comes off of one string, it obviously goes in 360 degrees. Well, if it hits all four diaphragms at the same time, and then if you lined up those files later, you should see that they should all be lined up in time. When the waves start lining up at different times, you start getting nasty phase shift, and then the complexity of the instrument starts falling apart. That's where the real fun comes in, is that as you take all three of these microphone pairs and start blending them together, you're going to find pretty broad range of tonal complexity across the instrument. You can either make a perfect mix, print all of those files, and then those are the audio files you put in your sampler. You can make version 1 with mic 1, version 2 with mic 2, version 3 with mics 1 and 2, version 4 with mics 1 and 2, but one is half as loud as the other. You can have kind of a bright mix, you can have a dark mix, you can have a far away mix, you can get really complicated and have a lot of fun making a lot of different kinds of varieties of audio mixes of just the three pairs. And then use those mixes to create the raw audio that you're going to blow into the sampler. And so one instrument, three pairs of mics, and a good collection of sounds and samples across the instrument bed could make as many as 20 different pianos. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. By the way, a little Easter egg for you guys who are really curious as to whether or not this is going to do everything you want. One of the things I had everybody do earlier as we were choosing our locations for the mics was walk around the room, see if you like where the sound is, and is there any kind of special secret sauce, anything weird and unusual that you could try to do to capture the instrument in a way that would provide a little bit of unique character. Because these mics are all about 300 bucks. I mean, anybody can have those. Those mics are a little more expensive. They're about 800 bucks, and those are obviously quite expensive, so it's not necessarily the kind of microphone that everybody can get. But if you take a look underneath, you're going to find a little secret sauce under there. Say hello to my little friend. This is the Shure SM7B. It's actually a broadcast vocal microphone meant for people to talk and yell and scream into it as they're having fun on, say, a radio show, talking about the news of the day or the sports of the day or what have you. The SM7B is a great choice for vocals. I use it for most of my videos. I know people like Rick Rubin have most of his vocalists sing into it. It can be a guitar mic, it can be a drum mic, it can be an anything mic. We chose to stick it underneath the piano and see if we can capture a little bit of the low end. So a little bit of secret sauce in there. It's always fun to have a little special something that nobody else knows about. And so for us, the SM7B underneath, it's kind of a little special surprise. So I'm just going to play in this configuration, and we'll call it out and let you know what's going on. Here we go.
Pyramind is the premier center for training in music and audio production. Set in the heart of San Francisco, Pyramind is surrounded by some of the biggest and best innovators on the planet. Not only are we a cutting-edge production school, we're also an award-winning music and audio production company. Learn from the team that's delivering award-winning content to the world's largest companies, as well as current artists who play the biggest stages around the globe. Our community events put you in touch with the vibrant local music scene, as well as touring DJs and producers, workshops, internships, and guest lecturers. Because we know the more involved you are, the further you'll go. You'll also be steeped in a vibrant community of like-minded creatives. Learn and collaborate with fellow students from around the world and create a long-term professional network that you'll lean on throughout your career. We've taken great care to make our programs about you. Choose from powerful career-driven programs to genre-specific ones. Start small and get your feet wet, or build a custom program tailored towards your personal needs. If you can't make it to San Francisco, you can enroll in our acclaimed online classes, 24/7 access to high-quality video training modules, challenging projects, and live interactions and project feedback with your instructors. Experience what Pyramind can do for you. Tell us where you want to go in your career. We can help you get there.